Ruth, and thank you to all the candidates for your straightforward answers. Now, these questions mostly have a Garrett County flavor to them. And let's see. Oh, now who to start first with? Let's go with Ami Hober first. Budgetary limits have forced Garrett County to close some elementary schools, forcing children onto long bus rides to reach very distant schools. Do you see any federal role in alleviating the problem of sustaining education in rural areas?
The answer is no. I really don't think that is a federal issue. I think the closer you get to handling education problems at the local and perhaps state levels, the better off you are. Both my parents were teachers. I learned that education is best handled as close to the teacher-pupil relationship as you can get. So I would recommend that the federal government not dicker around in the actual establishment or disestablishment of schools in any particular county. On the other hand, there are some things the federal government does that can help in education in general. And one of them is a program that is called Lifeline, which is a subsidy for people who are at a relative poverty level in terms of bringing in wireless communication into their homes. This is subsidized by every one of us that pays a cell phone bill today and would allow for greater education that is done online, even at the elementary school level. And I see how much can be done with my grandson, who does a fair number of his math courses online these days outside of regular schools. So I would recommend that we look at doing more in that regard here in Garrett County to alleviate some of the school pressure.
Thank you. Chris Mason. The definition of a hub zone is a place where unemployment is higher than average and wages are lower than average. All of Garrett County meets those criteria. As a result, the Small Business Administration has favored some Garrett County corporations in federal procurement contracts, much in the way 8A contracts are given to minority-owned firms. What would you do to preserve the Hub Zone program?
To be honest with you, I don't want to preserve it. We can't have our cake and eat it too. $20 trillion in debt. If we don't do something, we won't have hub zones to do something with. We don't seem to understand this concept. America will fall, and there won't be America to have jobs in. We're 20 trillion in debt because we go to Congress and we try to bring money back. It was not necessarily the expectations of our founders to bring money back like a lot of these people run, especially Ficker, saying he's going to go to Congress and bring things back for roads. What we need to do, even if we want to do some of these things, even if we want hub zones, give it to the state, let them run it, and get the federal government out of the way. Let the state do whatever they want. It's like voucher systems for schools. Give people the ability to have competition in school system. Competition will drive the cost down and increase the quality. Get the government out of the way. You'll increase businesses out here, decrease all the regulation, allow fracking. This whole area is going to boom overnight without government interference. We don't have the money for government interference anymore. You have to realize that we can't have our cake and eat it too. We can't say we want to send someone like Trump or Cruz or somebody like me, because I'm in that same vein, to Congress to get the government out of the way, and then say we want the government to come back in the way. That's contradicting. Doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Can I respond to his comment there?
Yeah, briefly.
Yeah, this Marine's attacked me too many times. What I'm talking about is bringing transportation funds back from Washington, which are otherwise going to metro systems in some of the big inner cities. We need to see some of those funds out here. Our district is clogged. Route 81, Route 270. We need to have people be able to move. We need to improve the Cumberland Airport, which is in West Virginia. We need to improve that. We need to bring some transportation money here, which is otherwise being spent elsewhere. And we just had the largest gas tax increase in United States history in Maryland, a 20 cent a gallon increase. Why shouldn't some of that come to Garrett County? Why do we have to spend it all in Baltimore or in Tacoma Park? We need to stand up for our people. If we don't stand up for Garrett County, as I know Senator Edwards will, who will? We have to stand up for Garrett County on Capitol Hill, and I'm going to bring back our fair share. If they call me the Robert Byrd of Garrett County, well, I don't apologize.
Okay, thank you. And oddly enough, the very next question was headed for Robin Ficker. Garrett County has an excellent east-west road in Interstate 68, but our north-south roads are inferior to that. What do you think should be done to meet our transportation needs?
I'm for improving north-south transportation in the 6th District of Maryland and using federal funds in any which way we can so that we can derive commerce from West Virginia, which has all these energy resources, from Virginia, which has a lot of jobs. I'd like to see Maryland become very much like Virginia in some respects, attracting jobs, and they have an excellent transportation system. They're getting a lot of federal money. So I make no apologies to trying to get federal funds to go north-south in Garrett County, Cumberland, Hagerstown, and also on 270. We need to stand up for our people, and I'm going to do everything I can. That's why I've been working here all this time. I remember when you used to have to go on that U-turn before they put the cut through the mountain. You had to go through the U-turn in the fall. You could barely see where you were going. If someone hadn't stood up for us, you wouldn't be able to have all these vacationers coming up here and swimming in beautiful Deep Creek Lake.
Thank you. Scott Cheng. In the previous century, Garrett County benefited from the Rural Electrification Administration. Do you see any parallels between that historical time and the current effort to bring wireless connectivity to our rural schools and homes? What, if anything, should be the federal role?
I didn't get the question. Can you repeat it? What the question is?
Sure.
In the previous century, Garrett County benefited from the Rural Electrification Administration. Do you see any parallels between that historical time and the current effort to bring wireless connectivity to our rural schools and homes? What, if anything, should be the federal role?
Thank you. You know, I get MD and PhD. I'm very familiar about education. So education is important, as I said. I can repeat again. So I mean, for that, you know, I think for school, wireless, you know, teachers, students at home is good. The one option is good. I mean, for like say, for example, people can save money. That's a good thing. But I definitely support, you know, that I mean, school students still go to school. You know why? Because if you study, not only just they study the knowledge. It's not only knowledge, okay? You also, the humans have to communication with many people. You know, child, for instance, they need humans different. You know, humans like this way. They need the social. It's like need a social life. You know, the student, they can talk with student each other, discussion with each other, know each other. Not only just say stay home, study. I know this knowledge. Okay, it's fine. It's knowledge, but important things you need to have a social life. So I think. The important thing is, you know, still go to school. But I do not against it for the wireless. I mean, that one is all a good way. But I think the best way is to go to school. That's what I think so. Because if you're looking for a job and something that you need communication anyway. All right, these are my answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Harold Painter. Given the great length of the 6th District, how would you balance the needs of constituents from places as far apart as the Washington suburbs in Garrett County?
Honestly, I think I'm the best guy up here to do that, having grown up my first 24 years in Allegheny County. My mom still lives there. My dad's buried there at the Veterans Cemetery. Both my brothers worked there. My brother Bill's level 49 like my dad was. I think I understand Western Maryland better than anybody and its need for jobs. This part, in this day and age, I live and work down in the other part of the 6th District, down in the Montgomery County part. So I've been working down there for quite some time. That's where my CPA practice is. I work with small business down there every day of the week. I help the people of that piece of the 6th district plan for their retirement, plan for the 529, plans for their kids. I don't think there's a better candidate up here than me to understand both ends of this district.
Thank you. Terry Baker. Garrett County's...
Could I comment on Mr. Painter here briefly? His comments. I consider myself the best candidate. I'm a county commissioner in Washington County, so I have to go into all of our rural areas of Washington County, into our city of Washington County. So I have to deal with the issues that he just mentioned there, and how would I go about bringing opportunities back to your community. First of all, we all work, we pay federal taxes. I would make sure that someone from each district in the 6th district is on my team, part of my staff, so that they can get all of the issues, all of the information back to your community, all of the dollars that the Congress is going to be spending, and you deserve your fair share of what you've already paid in. So I think I'm the best candidate.
Okay.
That's fine, Terry.
Thank you. All right, let's on this question now go to David Vogt. Disproportionately, young citizens of Garrett County have chosen military service for their careers. What changes do you think are needed in the way America takes care of its veterans?
The Department of Veteran Affairs and the active services are night and day when you look at how we're taking care of our veterans. Active duty, we've got support systems that are far and away the best in the world. And then we leave the service and we drop them on their heads. We expect them to be able to float without any support, without any preparation, without any integration back into the communities that we've fought to support and defend. I'm active in nonprofits, I'm active in the state level down in Annapolis, making sure that we improve that in a Maryland level so that we can be the example to set to the other states around us that say enough is enough. We lose 22 veterans every day to suicide because of a Department of Veteran Affairs that fails. They fail to address the needs, the issues of men and women that have put this country on their shoulders. And the reason we don't get active responses, legitimate responses from Capitol Hill is once upon a time, 30, 40 years ago, 81% of our members of Congress served in uniform. Today, less than 17%. We can't expect them to be leaders when they don't even know what that looks like. We elect them, and we go in there, we make a difference, and we change it for the future.
Thank you. Frank Howard. Farmers have been impacted by various new federal regulations and are very frightened by the prospect of the EPA changing navigable waters of the U.S. to just waters of the U.S. What is your position on regulation of lesser rivers and streams?
Glad you asked. Some of us, when we go to these debates, get asked, if you go to Congress and you represent the 6th District, which agency or agencies of the federal government would you get rid of entirely or radically cut back on? And of course, the EPA is right on the tip of most lips, including mine. The EPA was originally put in place and it was about clean air and water, and who can argue with that? But the left, for decades now, has packed regulation after regulation for political gain, political sportsmanship, and I am firmly in favor of cutting way back on EPA. You know, people frequently say, I think we ought to audit the Federal Reserve. So do I. I also think we ought to audit the EPA, and the farmers have a darn good reason to be fearful, and I think that when the EPA is essentially waging war on farmers and other businesses, what they're really doing is attacking capitalism and the way that this country was founded and became the greatest country on earth. And I believe that the EPA, just like the IRS, in the last few years has become weaponized against our own citizenry. And I would like to have a nonpartisan commission take a look at the EPA and probably other agencies as well, including the IRS, hold it up to the light of scrutiny and say what needs to go and what doesn't. And I believe what would need to go would be the vast majority of it. Get back to focusing on clean air and clean water and stop waging war on our own people, including farmers and businessmen.
Thank you. Terry Baker. Garrett County's most valuable asset is our very pure Deep Creek Lake. What guidance can Congress provide to federal agencies to assure this pristine environment remains forever?
Well, as I said earlier, I love Deep Creek Lake. I've fished the lake many, many times. Enjoyed the bass fishing, enjoyed riding the boat around, going from facility to facility. And the federal government needs to work in conjunction with the citizens and the leaders of Garrett County to make sure that we do everything possible to help protect the lake, keep it as beautiful as we possibly can, and we also have to be mindful of property rights on the surrounding property owners. I am a property right advocate, and we have to assure that the lake stays as it currently is, put rules in place. And I do know that Garrett County has no zoning laws for Garrett County, and I think that's a positive for your community. The only laws that you have to follow zoning-wise in Garrett County are the ones that are mandated by the state and federal government. But again, you need to work with your local people. You need to make sure the lake is protected, it remains beautiful, pure, and because it is a tremendous tourism and economic driver for Garrett County. Thank you.
Okay. And now, just before I call on Bill Schreider to read the questions set forth from the audience, I want to ask one last question to all the candidates, and it doesn't need a verbal response, just a show of hands will do. Will you support the Republican nominee for Congress from the 6th Congressional District, even though it might not be you? Okay, thank you, candidates. Now, Bill Schreider, come on up with the audience questions and take over the podium. Bill is the secretary of our Garrett County Republican Central Committee, and in that role he handles all of our correspondence with the governor and so forth and our legislators, and it's a very important role, and now he's going to come up and represent you folks with your questions.
I think since these are from you, I'm going to be here and we're going to all speak from here.